By morning, they were back on land. The sky was gray, the sea behind them red with dawn. Ha-Joon moved like a man possessed. He buried Min-soo on a quiet hill overlooking the harbor, marking the grave with nothing but a stone. Maya stood beside him, shivering in the cold. "What are you going to do?" He looked at her, eyes burning. "End this. Every last one of them. Alone." He shook his head. "Never alone again." Maya swallowed hard, realizing what he meant. "Then we do it together." He tried to protest, but she cut him off. "You saved me. Now I save you. That's the deal." A faint, broken smile curved his lips. "You always did negotiate like a boss." She smiled back, though her heart pounded with fear. The war Ha-Joon had tried to bury was coming back, and this time she was walking into it with him. They spent that evening in an abandoned temple overlooking Busan's city lights. The air was still, the world holding its breath before the storm. Maya sat by the window, polishing the handgun Ha-Joon had given her. "I can't believe this is my life now," she said quietly. He sat across from her, cleaning his own weapon. "You could still walk away." She looked up sharply. "And go where?" "Back to making coffee and pretending you don't exist." Ha-Joon lowered his gaze. "You deserve peace." "So do you," she said softly. "But I guess neither of us gets that anymore." He smiled faintly, eyes dark and tired. "You're stronger than you think, Maya." She stood, crossing the room until she was standing over him. "No, I'm stronger because of you." For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the air between them humming with unspoken words. Finally, Ha-Joon reached up, taking her hand. "Then whatever happens tomorrow, remember this. I never regretted finding you." Maya's throat tightened. "Don't talk like it's goodbye." "It's not," he said. "It's a promise." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, the first sound of the war to come. The sky over Seoul burned red that night. Not from the sunset, but from the fires that already started before the war even began. Ha-Joon stood on the rooftop of an abandoned hotel in Yonggu, staring down at the streets below. The city pulsed beneath him, his city, his empire, the one that had turned on him. Maya stood a few steps behind, wind tugging her hair into her face. She looked small against the wide horizon, but her eyes were steady. There was no fear left in them, only resolve. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. Ha-Joon turned his head slightly. "There's no other way. Seoul controls the ports, the casinos, half the police. If I wait any longer, he wins." Maya walked up beside him, looking down at the glowing streets. "And if you win?" He didn't answer immediately. Then, with a faint, weary smile, he said, "Then maybe we get to live like people instead of ghosts." She reached out, touching his arm. "Then let's make sure you do." In the abandoned temple the night before, they'd mapped out their plan across a dusty wooden floor. Seoul's stronghold was in an underground gambling den beneath the Hanul Tower Hotel, a luxurious skyscraper overlooking the river, a place built with Ha-Joon's own money years ago. To take it back, Ha-Joon would have to walk into his own shadow. "We can't attack head-on," he'd said. "Seoul's expecting that. We'll draw him out. Make him come to us." "How?" Maya asked. "By hitting his money." He pointed at the map, red circles drawn over a network of warehouses and fronts across Seoul. "He keeps his cash moving through shell companies and night markets. If we burn it all, he'll have to show himself." Maya studied the map, then looked up. "You're talking about burning millions." He met her gaze evenly. "It was never really mine, or his. It was built on fear." "And what happens when you destroy it?" Ha-Joon's voice was calm but cold. "Then maybe fear stops paying dividends." 2 nights later, the city went up in smoke. Warehouse after warehouse caught fire in the dark corners of Seoul, silent flames licking the sky while sirens screamed in every district. Ha-Joon's loyal men, what few remained, moved like ghosts, setting charges, erasing ledgers, cutting every vein that fed Seoul's empire. Maya was with them, dressed in black, her heart pounding as she poured gasoline over wooden crates stamped with the Biko tiger. Ha-Joon watched her from the doorway, the firelight painting her skin in gold and shadow. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. She looked up, fierce and steady. "You said this is our fight. I'm here." He nodded once. "Then let's finish it." She tossed the lighter. The warehouse exploded in a roar of flame. The reflection burned in Ha-Joon's eyes like vengeance. By dawn, every news outlet in Seoul was ablaze with headlines. Mafia war erupts, Biko syndicate splinters. But the fire was only the beginning. At noon, Ha-Joon received a message on an encrypted line. A single phrase, "Meet me where it started." Ha-Joon knew immediately what it meant. The old Biko club, the first place he and Seo-Jin had shared power years ago. "It's a trap," Maya said when he showed her the message. "Of course it is," he replied, loading his gun. "But traps go both ways." She grabbed his wrist. "Then I'm coming." He looked at her, eyes dark with something between love and dread. "If I tell you to run." "I won't," she said. He nodded once, as if he'd known that would be her answer. The club was a ruin now. Dust, silence, and shattered glass. Ha-Joon stepped through the broken doorway, gun drawn, every muscle tense. Maya stayed close behind him. The faint sound of jazz music drifted from somewhere deeper inside. And then, a voice echoed through the shadows. "Welcome home, Hyung." Seo-Jin stepped out from the darkness, smiling. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. His suit was immaculate, but there was madness in the way he stood, too casual, too sure. "I almost missed this place," Seo-Jin said, glancing around. "Do you remember, Ha-Joon? We built everything right here. You taught me loyalty, and I taught you ambition." Ha-Joon's grip tightened on his gun. "You taught me greed." Seo-Jin laughed softly. "No, I taught you what power costs. You just didn't want to pay." Ha-Joon took a step forward. "You betrayed us. You killed Min-soo." "I freed us," Seo-Jin said calmly. "You were too busy playing saint to realize that this life only ends two ways, in a grave or on a throne." Ha-Joon raised the gun. "Then let's see who sits on it." The air exploded with gunfire. Ha-Joon dove behind the bar, returning fire as Seo-Jin's men poured in from both sides. The room filled with smoke and glass shards, the thunder of bullets echoing off marble. Maya ducked behind a pillar, her heart slamming against her ribs. She'd never been in a real firefight before, not like this, but instinct took over. She aimed and fired, her shot taking one man down before he could flank Ha-Joon. Ha-Joon glanced her way, a quick, wordless connection of pride and fear, before rolling out from cover and dropping another attacker. The chaos stretched for endless minutes, then silence fell. Only Ha-Joon, Maya, and Seo-Jin remained. Seo-Jin clapped slowly, blood streaking his sleeve. "You always did have good aim," he said. "Maybe that's why she likes you." Ha-Joon leveled his gun. "This ends now." Seo-Jin smiled and pulled a second gun from behind his back. For a moment, time slowed. 2 guns, 2 men, 1 heartbeat. Maya watched, helpless, as Ha-Joon and Seo-Jin circled each other. Brothers in everything but blood, now enemies to the death. Seo-Jin sneered. "You think she'll still love you when she knows what you really are? The things you've done." Ha-Joon didn't flinch. "She already knows. And she still stayed." "Then she's a fool." "Maybe," Ha-Joon said softly. "But she's my reason." Seo-Jin hesitated just for a fraction of a second, and that was all it took. Ha-Joon fired. The bullet hit Seo-Jin square in the chest. He stumbled back, eyes wide, shock overtaking fury. As he fell, he whispered, "Checkmate." Then he was gone. Ha-Joon stood still, gun trembling in his hand. Maya ran to him, catching his arm before he collapsed. "It's over," she said. He shook his head. "No, not yet." By dawn, the Biko syndicate was in ashes. Ha-Joon's remaining men surrendered or fled. The police, finally brave enough to move, raided the city's underbelly, taking what was left of the empire. Ha-Joon didn't resist. He and Maya sat in the wreckage of the club, the light of morning pouring through shattered windows. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. He looked at her. The blood, the exhaustion, the fire that still burned behind her eyes. Now we disappear. For real this time. She smiled faintly. No more ghosts. No more ghosts. He reached out, brushing her cheek, his thumb tracing away a smudge of ash. You changed everything, Maya. She leaned into his touch. So did you. Outside, the sirens wailed, distant, fading. Ha-Joon took one last look at the city he'd once ruled. Then he turned away. Hand in hand, they walked into the sunrise. Somewhere on the southern coast, a small cafe overlooked the sea. The sign above the door read, Espresso Hearts. Inside, the air smelled of roasted beans and salt water. Maya stood behind the counter, humming softly as she poured milk into a cappuccino. A man sat at the corner table, reading the newspaper, a faint scar tracing along his jaw. When she brought him his drink, he looked up and smiled. Still can't make it as good as you, she teased. Ha-Joon chuckled. That's because I trained you too well. She leaned down, whispering, Liar. He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Maybe, but I'm your liar now. Outside, the sea stretched endlessly, calm, blue, and full of promise. And for the first time in years, both of them felt like they'd finally found peace. The ocean had a way of keeping secrets. Every morning, Maya stood by the shore behind Espresso Hearts, watching the waves roll in, endless, calm, beautiful. It was hard to believe that only a year ago, those same waves had carried blood and fire from Seoul's underworld. Now all that was left was peace. Or so she told herself. Inside the cafe, Ha-Joon was fixing the espresso machine, his latest obsession. He still wore that same black shirt rolled at the sleeves, his scars fading but never forgotten. Careful, Maya teased, wiping down the counter. You treat that thing like it's your enemy. He gave her a crooked smile. It leaks every morning. If that's not betrayal, I don't know what is. Spoken like a man with trust issues. He looked up, eyes warm. Spoken like a woman who made me trust again. She smiled, that quiet, private smile that belonged only to him. Flattery won't fix your coffee machine. I wasn't trying to fix it. Their laughter filled the cafe, gentle, familiar. The kind of sound that made strangers believe they were just a normal couple. But normal was a word that never truly belonged to them. The first sign came on a Tuesday. A customer, a man in a gray suit, his face half hidden beneath a cap, came in for coffee just before closing. He spoke little, only ordering a latte and watching Maya as she worked. Ha-Joon, reading by the window, noticed it immediately. His hand twitched slightly toward his side. Old habits never died. When the man left, Ha-Joon followed him out discreetly. He didn't go far, just to the cliff overlooking the sea. There, the stranger lit a cigarette and dropped something into the waves. A small black pendant shaped like a tiger. Ha-Joon's blood went cold. The symbol of Biko. He returned to the cafe with a silent storm brewing behind his eyes. Maya noticed the change instantly. What happened? He hesitated. Probably nothing. She crossed her arms. I know that look, Ha-Joon. It's never nothing. He exhaled, rubbing his temple. Someone left a message. A Biko pendant. Maya's heart skipped. You said they were gone. You said it was over. So did I. He murmured, eyes distant. But ghosts don't drown easy. That night, Ha-Joon barely slept. He sat outside the cafe, the sea wind whipping at his hair, staring into the dark horizon. Maya came out quietly, a blanket over her shoulders. She sat beside him, their knees touching. You think someone survived? She said softly. I know someone did, he replied. I just don't know who. She watched him, the hard line of his jaw, the distant fire still burning behind his eyes. He'd changed since the war, calmer, more thoughtful. But part of him was still that man from Seoul, dangerous, driven, haunted. You can't go back, she said. Not again. He looked at her. If they're coming here, I don't have a choice. She reached out, taking his hand. Then you're not going alone. He smiled faintly. You never let me. I never will. For a moment, the sea was their only witness. Two souls bound by everything they'd lost and everything they'd refused to surrender. 2 days later, Ha-Joon's past came knocking. Literally. Maya was opening the cafe when the bell above the door rang. She looked up and froze. A man stood there, his face pale and drawn, one arm in a sling. His hair was shorter than before, but she recognized him instantly. Min-soo, she whispered. He smiled weakly. You look surprised. Maya's breath caught. We buried you. So I heard, he said, stepping inside. Good thing rumors of my death were exaggerated. Before she could speak again, Ha-Joon appeared from the kitchen, and the look that crossed his face was pure disbelief. Min-soo, boss. For a long moment, neither man moved. Then Ha-Joon crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled him into a rough embrace. Min-soo winced, laughing. Careful. Still healing. Ha-Joon stepped back, eyes narrowing. How? Fishermen found me after the fight. I was half dead, but I didn't die. Been hiding ever since, watching. And now, he looked between them. Now I think you need to know. Someone else didn't die either. Ha-Joon's expression darkened. Who? Min-soo hesitated. Seo-jin's younger brother. Park Do-ha. Ha-Joon's jaw clenched. He was supposed to be in prison. He escaped 6 months ago. Rumor is he's rebuilding the Biko name offshore. And he's looking for you. The silence that followed was thick and cold. Maya's heart pounded. You mean he's coming here? Min-soo nodded grimly. If he isn't already. By nightfall, the cafe no longer felt safe. Ha-Joon and Min-soo checked the locks, the windows, the perimeter. Maya tried to keep calm, but every creak of the wind sounded like footsteps. Maybe we should leave, she said finally. Ha-Joon shook his head. Running won't fix this. If Do-ha wants a war, I'll finish it here. Min-soo frowned. You don't have the men for that anymore. I don't need men, Ha-Joon said quietly. I have a reason. He looked at Maya and she understood. They weren't fighting for territory or reputation this time. They were fighting for the small, fragile piece of peace they'd built together. The attack came 3 nights later. The cafe was closed, the sea whispering in the dark, when headlights cut across the sand. 3 black cars rolled up silently. Ha-Joon was ready. He and Min-soo crouched behind the counter as Maya moved to the back, clutching the pistol Ha-Joon had given her. The first explosion shattered the front windows. Smoke filled the room, glass raining down. Ha-Joon rose, firing into the haze. Shadows moved outside, trained, silent killers. Min-soo flanked left, taking one down before a bullet grazed his shoulder. Maya pressed herself against the back door, heart racing. She wanted to help. She needed to, but fear coiled around her throat. Then she saw a figure through the smoke. Tall, calm, moving like a ghost. Ha-Joon froze. Do-ha. The man stepped into view. Younger than Seo-jin, but colder, eyes gleaming with quiet malice. You killed my brother, he said evenly. Ha-Joon leveled his gun. He killed himself the day he betrayed me. Do-ha smiled faintly. And you think you can bury Biko twice? I'm not burying it, Ha-Joon said. I'm ending it. The gunfire resumed, thunderous and close. Maya, shaking, saw a flash of metal near the back. Another intruder slipping through the kitchen. Without thinking, she raised her gun and fired. The man dropped instantly. For a moment, the only sound was the crash of waves. Then Ha-Joon's voice. Maya! She turned just as Do-ha lunged, blade glinting. Ha-Joon intercepted him, the 2 men crashing into a table. The fight was brutal, silent. Fists, blood, and fury. Do-ha grabbed the knife again, slashing wildly. Ha-Joon blocked, the blade grazing his shoulder, and countered. One swift strike that sent Do-ha sprawling. Ha-Joon stood over him, gun raised. Do-ha laughed weakly. Go ahead. Be the monster you pretend you're not. Ha-Joon's eyes were ice. No, he lowered the gun. I'm not you. Then Maya stepped forward, calm, shaking, but sure. But I am the woman who won't let you hurt him again. She picked up Duha's fallen gun and fired once. The echo rolled out to the sea. By dawn it was over. Duha's men were gone, scattered or dead. The cafe stood in ruins again, smoke rising from its roof, but the sea was peaceful. Ha-Joon sat on the steps outside, blood drying on his sleeve, watching the waves. Maya came to sit beside him. You always said the past doesn't die easy, she murmured. He smiled faintly. Guess you proved me wrong. She leaned against him, exhausted. What now? He looked at her, at the woman who'd walked through fire, guns, and ghosts with him, and smiled. Now we rebuild. Again. Maya laughed softly. We'll run out of nails. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then we build something that doesn't need walls. She tilted her head, smiling. Like love. He chuckled quietly. Exactly like love. The morning sun rose higher, spilling gold across the waves. And though the ghosts of the past still lingered beneath the sea, they no longer had power over them. For the first time, Maya and Ha-Joon weren't just survivors. They were free. The rain always smelled like beginnings. It had been 6 months since the last gunshot echoed across the shore of Busan. The cafe was open again. Smaller this time, warmer, built with pieces of the old espresso hearts and new memories layered in between. Maya stood behind the counter, humming softly to the sound of the rain tapping the windows. The place smelled of cinnamon and dark roast. A quiet peace had settled over her life, fragile but real. Order up. Jin-Ee's voice came from the kitchen, cheerful as always. She'd finally come back from Seoul, where she'd been working at a pastry school. Her hands were dusted with flour, and she looked happier than Maya had ever seen her. Maya smiled. Your croissants are going to make us rich. Please, Jin-E said with a laugh. You and Ha-Joon already are, emotionally rich. The rest of us just bake. Maya rolled her eyes, laughing. He's still the same Jin-E, overprotective, quiet, a total mystery. Jin-E grinned. And you love every bit of it. Maya didn't deny it, because it was true. Ha-Joon came in from the rain just then, hair damp, sleeves rolled up, that same quiet calm around him. He carried a box of supplies and a faint smile. Your delivery's here, boss, he teased. Put it down before you melt, Maya said, walking toward him with a towel. She reached up to dry his hair, scolding him under her breath. I told you not to walk here in the rain. He caught her wrist gently. And miss you worrying about me? Never. She sighed, heart fluttering. You're impossible. Only for you. He leaned down and kissed her, soft, brief, but full of that warmth that still made her heart stumble. Even after everything, his kisses felt like safety. When they broke apart, Jin-E groaned dramatically. Ugh. Can you two not do that in the workplace? Maya threw a napkin at her, laughing. You're just jealous. I am. Go take it outside before I call HR. That evening, after closing, Ha-Joon stood by the ocean again. Not haunted this time, just thoughtful. Min-soo had finally gone back to Seoul to start a new life, helping the police dismantle the remaining Biko remnants. Ha-Joon had given his final statement months ago and officially walked away from the underworld. He still had nightmares sometimes. Flashes of blood, betrayal, fire, but they didn't control him anymore. Maya had a way of silencing the noise just by being there. He looked down at the small velvet box in his pocket. His pulse quickened. He'd carried it for weeks, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the peace to feel real. Finally did. Maya, he called softly as she stepped outside, umbrella in hand. She smiled, walking to him. You'll catch a cold standing in the rain again. He took the umbrella from her, closing it slowly. I needed the rain. She laughed lightly. Why? Because the first time I met you, it was raining. Her laughter softened into something quiet, warm. You remember that day? I remember everything, he said, eyes locked on hers. You yelling at those boys. The way you didn't back down. The way you looked at me like I wasn't someone to fear. She smiled faintly. I was terrified. He chuckled. You hid it well. Their hands met, fingers intertwining naturally. The sound of the sea hummed behind them, the rain soft as whispers. Maya, he said quietly, for years I thought love was a weakness, that caring for someone meant giving your enemies a weapon. She looked up, rain glistening on her lashes. And now, he breathed. I know love is the only thing that ever made me strong. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the small velvet box. Maya froze. Her heart stopped. Ha-Joon went down on one knee. Rain dripped from his hair, his shirt clinging to his shoulders, but he didn't care. His eyes never left hers. Maya Johnson, he said, voice steady but soft. You walked into my life and burned down every wall I built. You made me believe in something better, in a world where even men like me can start over. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't have much to give, he continued. Just this ring, and my promise, that for the rest of my life, no matter where we are, you'll never fight alone again. He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band, elegant, timeless. Maya covered her mouth. A sob caught in her throat. Ha-Joon, he smiled faintly. Marry me, Maya. Make this peace real. For a long, trembling heartbeat, all she could do was stare at him. The man who had once terrified her. The man who had saved her. The man who had learned how to love. Then she nodded, tears spilling freely. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Ha-Joon exhaled. A sound between relief and laughter, and slipped the ring onto her finger. Maya threw her arms around him, and he stood, holding her tight as the rain poured down, the ocean roaring like applause. He kissed her, rain and tears blending together, the taste of salt and promise on their lips. They married 3 months later at sunrise on the same beach where everything had begun. There were only a handful of guests, Jin-ae, Min-soo, and a few kind neighbors who'd become family. The ceremony was simple, beautiful, real. Maya wore a flowing ivory dress that fluttered in the breeze. Ha-Joon wore a gray suit with no tie, a white flower pinned to his lapel. When he saw her walking down the aisle, barefoot, smiling through happy tears, he forgot how to breathe. Jin-ae cried louder than anyone, muttering something about main character syndrome. Min-soo kept pretending to wipe dust from his eyes. When the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Ha-Joon didn't hesitate. He kissed her like the world had stopped spinning, like the ocean itself had bowed to witness it. And for once, there were no shadows, just sunlight, laughter, and a future stretching endlessly ahead. A year later, Espresso Hearts had become one of Busan's most beloved seaside cafes. Tourists came for the coffee. Locals came for the warmth. Maya still baked every morning, her apron dusted with flour and happiness. Ha-Joon handled deliveries and quietly intimidated suppliers into fair prices, old habits, reformed purposes. Sometimes, when the cafe closed and the sea was calm, they'd sit together by the window. Maya would rest her head on his shoulder and whisper, "We made it," and Ha-Joon would smile, pressing a kiss to her hair. "We're still making it." Outside, the sign above the door glowed softly in the night. Hot beverage, Espresso Hearts, love, courage, coffee. And beneath it, carved in tiny letters that only they knew were there, were the words that told their story. From rain to forever. Ha-Joon and Maya's story concludes with peace, love, and the warmth of a new beginning. Proof that even the darkest hearts can find light when they choose love over fear. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.